All right. All right, gang. We are back here live on the soapbox. I'm actually in the morning before a level 1 seminar, day 2, which is pretty cool. Want to just chat a little bit about some topics of discussion. So first off, great feedback on the life story. I really appreciate that. Obviously, a lot of personal stuff there. We're going to keep it going. Like I said, it's not going to be in subsequent episodes like back to back, but we will get it all, so don't you worry. But if you have questions on that stuff or thoughts or ideas, whatever it might be, always open to the feedback. So get this question a lot in the world of CrossFit, maybe from people that have either been in the world of CrossFit for a long time and start to question for whatever reason, or newer people about sort of the functionality of certain movements, the functionality of the snatch, the functionality of the handstand push-up. Why do we do a GHD Set Up, for example? So I think there's a few things, and the reason why I'm passionate about this topic is I really do think it generates a misunderstanding of, one, not only our program that we do at CrossFit, but also the misunderstanding of transferability and really what our purpose is. And I think it always also goes back to what are your goals and what do you want. There's nothing wrong with people that don't want to do certain things, but it just depends on what our goals are. So I think that's important to understand. So let's talk about what functionality means first, right? So functional movements, what does that mean, right? We can nerd out about what we talk about at the CrossFit seminar, but really it's movements that we see in everyday real life have applicability to everyday real life and or gives us competency to allow us to complete any task life may throw at us. And there's a lot of characteristics of functional movements that we like, but also we know that functional movements are big movers, and they allow us to produce a lot of power and get very fit, and they're exhausting, right? So, I mean, one of the most functional movements from a body weight perspective is a burpee, right? That's a very high power movement going up and down, moving your center of mass as far as you can without an external load, external object. So, and then from there, where does it fall within our program, and where do functional movements and I guess you could say sort of auxiliary movements fall in, where, a good example is the GHD Set Up. The GHD Set Up is a movement that we actually, from a movement pattern perspective, we see in, sport in life, where a throw-in in soccer, a serve in volleyball or tennis, this big open and closing and flexion of the trunk in concert with the hip, and this big power movement. And it's very hard to replicate without the GHD Set Up. Now, can you get fit without doing GHD Set Ups? Absolutely. But it's a tool that can really be helpful. And if done right and dosed up appropriately, there's a huge amount of athletic benefit there, and scaled correctly for each individual. So I think that's important to understand there, is that there's transferability there. And I think there's a few key things. It's like, if done correctly, if scaled appropriately, and if dosed appropriately from a progression of, all right, let's start with ab mat setups and then go partial range, so on and so forth. All of those things need to happen appropriately. And quite honestly, I haven't seen anyone get bothered by it. We also don't need to over volumize any one of these things, right? So we'll take the GHD Set Up, put that in a bucket. And you take the snatch, for example. The snatch is a movement that brings a load from the ground overhead. Now, why do we do it? It's because depending on its application, encompasses pretty much any physical attribute you can imagine, from coordination, accuracy, agility and balance, flexibility, power, speed, strength, stamina. If you got to do a lot of reps, cardio, respiratory endurance, right? And the technical complexity of it is so profound, and it translates down to our cleans. It puts us in a position off the floor where our hands are a little wider, hips a little lower, the flexibility is even more demanding. And if you really think about it, it's like, well, what is the functionality of it? Well, if you go to a job site, if you go to a house, like picking something from the ground and bringing it overhead, if you can, you're going to do it. I have a 14-month-old daughter, and I, play with her all the time, and I pick her up and I bring her overhead and I swing her around, and that is a snatch for, in a very sort of perverted way, from the sense of, it's not a barbell or whatever it might be. So I think from there, it's, the snatch not only does have some application to real life. Now, yeah, the clean and jerk is more functional, right? Yeah, because you can lift more weight. But again, you're going to look for the path of least resistance, but also trying to get there as quickly as you can. So that's what we're also looking at when it comes to these movements. And it's a beautiful movement. And also the snatch comes in all different flavors: a barbell, a kettlebell, a dumbbell, single dumbbell, double dumbbell. There's all sorts of things. And we teach everyone the Olympic lifts in CrossFit. We teach people how to do this stuff because of the neurological complexity. It's frustrating when you're new at it, when you're young in the sport, but when you learn, you become a better person. You become a better athlete. So it is a very, very functional movement from the perspective of neurological adaptations and how it trickles down to everything else. Because if you can snatch, a clean and jerk starts to become a little easier. Deadlifting becomes a little easier because all we have to do is deadlift. And that's an important piece. And watching those things click. As we get older in life, we very rarely challenge ourselves physically from a learning perspective, and the snatch is a beautiful tool for that. Put that in a bucket: handstand push-ups, handstand walks. Again, I think that when you look at this, when you learn to walk on your hands, you're learning a few skills that are functional, right? Now, yes, you're not going to walk on your hands anywhere, so let's not have that stupid debate like functional movements, why, blah, blah, blah. But no, let's talk about transferability to real life. Your ability to control yourself when you're upside down, when you're not as balanced as you like. Your ability to control yourself when your hips start to come over your head. It's a tool that, I guess I just go back to kids, right? Like watching kids, they're always getting inverted, right? They're on their hands, they're getting in headstands, they're rolling, so these are things that are relatively innate. No one taught our kids this. Very few. I very rarely in my house get into a headstand or get upside down. I don't, and I have the skill set to do it, probably more than most, but I watch my daughter do that. So clearly there's some sort of innate functionality and ability for us as humans to do this. And yes, if you use it, you keep it. If you don't use it, you lose it. So when we take a look at this stuff, remember that, what are we learning? Well, not only that, we're loading the shoulder and the wrist and the elbow with our body weight. It's a body weight movement. And so, we want to make sure that our gymnastics are the base before we start to load as well. So it's an important loading phase for wrist, elbow, shoulder. We also start to really strengthen the midline when we're upside down. And we learn how to strengthen midline, that neurological capacity of how do you control your midline when you're upside down. And developing shoulder strength, think about how much we utilize the hips, and we utilize the hips a lot, the hip flexors. And the more that we actually leverage that shoulder is now when we actually start to level the playing field a little bit. I don't know if we'll ever level the playing field, but getting that shoulder a little more on par with what we want to see for the strength and the capacity and the flexibility of that. And also remember, we're dosing it up. We start in a pike and then maybe bring your, in a bear walk position, bear crawl position. And if you think about that, like being able to crawl across the floor on a bear walk or a pike position is an absolutely functional thing to do. It's being able to traverse in a setting when it's not super ideal. And certainly as we get older, your ability to, put yourself in a position that is maybe not ideal, that you don't want to get into, but more importantly, you can get out of it. And that's what we're really looking for, is that capacity, like in a back extension on the GHD, round your back and then extend your back. You're developing capacity to get out of a compromised position. And so when it happens, you don't get injured and you have no competency there. So we want to avoid situations in life that we cannot handle. And the more that you can do, the more that things that life will throw at you will start to become laughable. And that's part of the piece there. But the shoulder strength, the awareness, the capacity, the coordination, the awareness, the equilibrium, those are things that we really start to see with that. The handstand push-up, we don't need you to over-volumize this. So, taking that to the handstand push-up, I hear like, oh, my neck hurts, or my shoulder hurts, or my elbow hurts when I snatch, or all these things, or I hurt my back when I GHD. Oftentimes, I hear this from people that there's two misconceptions. You did too much too soon too often, right? Where you're just doing too much. And as opposed to proper variance, you might only see a GHD set up once a month or twice a month. Handstand walk, handstand push-up, same thing. and it might be varied in how we see it and the volume and all these other things. And I really do think people misunderstand that, like, CrossFit is meant to be, you work out. Your workout lasts for no longer really than 20 minutes on average, But you warm up, you do a skill, you work out, you cool down. It's an hour. You do that for one time a day for 3 to 5 times a week. Now the volume there is low, and with that, you can do these things without breakdown. If you start snatching every single day, if you're handstand walking every day, or GHD Set Up every day, or even every other day, whatever, more than what we would probably recommend, you're going to break down. And that's the concept with volume that I always go back to, is that you work out twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day. You double, triple, quadruple your risk for injury. And also what you're doing is you're limiting the amount of reps you have on your body. You're riding your body harder. Will you get adaptations quicker? Probably. Will you get better sooner? Yeah. But it's like driving a car really hard. You can drive it really, really hard. You're going to be able to go fast and get there sooner. You're going to do cool things, but you might be taking years off that engine's life. Because of how hard we drive it, as opposed to, if you just drive it, the speed limit, we're never going super hard, so on and so forth, it will last longer. Now there's a balance of what you want and what your goals are, and that's a different conversation, which we've had. But as a CrossFit trainer and CrossFit coach, stop trying to reinvent the wheel and stop trying to be someone you're not. If you don't want to coach CrossFit and you just want to coach dumbbell class and you want to do a boot camp, great. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's amazing fitness there. I know a lot of people that, hey, I don't want to touch a barbell. Well, great. That's okay. I can get you really, really fit without touching a barbell. But there are some things that are very unique about getting upside down and getting a barbell in your hand and overhead that you can't replicate without that stuff. And it's okay if you don't want to do that, but there's owners and head coaches, people, it's just like the whole, just the holier than thou, or like CrossFit's direction. I hear all this bullshit, and it's just like, keep it simple. Like, I can teach anyone how to snatch, and I can teach anyone how to do a handstand walk, and if they walk in my gym, I'm going to do it, whether you're 15 years old or you're 75 years old. And I'm confident in that, and I know I can do that, and I'm good at it. If you as a coach don't teach that stuff, it's because you suck at coaching, and you're masking it with some sort of educational bluff. You're a charlatan, and you're masquerading as a CrossFit coach, but really what you're saying is, I'm not good enough to coach the handstand walk. I'm not good enough to coach the snatch, and I'm afraid to do it. And if that's the case, own it and get better, or find a new job. Do something new, but stop walking around and saying this stuff. And again, it's like, there's nothing wrong with your goals, and there's nothing wrong with doing something different, but you got to be honest with yourself and your people. It's like, I know people like, I just don't want to do CrossFit anymore. Okay, awesome. And there's a lot of ways to get fit, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, we have to know the optimal way to do it, and it's really, but again, you look at CrossFit.com now, you see pictures of people that are doing, movements in their living room, and laugh at it all you want. We've always been doing that at the affiliate. If it's laughable to you, maybe it's because, maybe the decor is not what you like, but let's get real. Like, a deadlift is picking something off the ground. Like, my daughter picks stuff off the ground, she deadlifts, and then she brings something overhead, it's a snatch. When you're 60 or 70 years old, you're really doing the same thing. And we want to lower the barrier to entry for our athletes and our members, and this is how we do it. And if you run a successful affiliate, you've been doing that stuff for years. And if you want to be successful, you need to keep getting better to keep getting these skills. And why snatch? Because it allows us to be better. It allows us to keep getting new skills, not only neurologically, physiologically as well. And that's why we do it. That's why we get upside down, because certain movements are not only for certain athletes or Olympians or whomever. Human movement is the common language, and everyone is a part of that. And everyone has the right to learn this stuff. If they don't want to, that's okay. I don't want to learn physics right now. It's too much for me. It doesn't mean physics is stupid. But could I learn physics? Absolutely. Remember that, right? It's okay. It's if your business models change, if your gym has changed, if your passions change, that's okay. Own it. But don't knock something because it's a little different, right? And keep it simple, guys. Jump and land. get into a pike position, whatever it might be. But learn, and stop reading a book, stop watching stuff online, and go to a seminar and learn from others. Specialists are great, but I can't tell you, it's like when people ask me, hey, I saw this on a message board the other day. I have to re-up my level 1. Is it worth it to go to the level 2? I saw that and I thought to myself, and I know this is tough. If you're thinking that, you're probably not good at what you do. In fact, I know you're not good. If you have your level 2 and you care, you attempt to get your level 3. Even if you fail, it's okay. But if you have your level 1 and you're a coach, and if there's a financial reason, whatever it might be, that's okay. But the passion and the drive should always be like, I need to get my level 2. I need to get my level 3. And when the level 4 is, I'm going to get it. Why? Because you care. Not because of a status or anything like that. So that's what I got for you. Let's not go super crazy. Keep it simple. These movements are functional. They transfer to real life. I appreciate it. That's a 15, 16-minute podcast. Hopefully you appreciate it. The Soapbox, Austin Malleolo. We'll see you next week.